Hi everyone! How's everyone doing? Happy Friday. I hope that you're all doing well. Welcome back and welcome if you're new here. This week we are going to be chatting all about sleep and different ways of how to improve your sleep and certain things that might interfere with your sleep and ways that you can get a better and restful sleep. So I want you to let me know in the comments, is sleep something that you struggle with? I know myself, if I don't get a good sleep, then I just don't feel good the next day. I might feel tired or have some difficulty concentrating, maybe get more hungry. So these are some things I'll mention. So let me know in the chat if that is something that that you struggle with. Do you have difficulty either falling asleep? Do you have difficulty staying asleep? Do you wake up not feeling rested? So I want to hear from you if that's something that you are struggling with. So what I'll be talking about are kind of like some sleep hygiene, some just general sleep tips, and then I'll talk a little bit about some conditions that might be interfering with sleep that maybe you didn't know about. And then I'll give you some tips about, different, herbs or supplements and things that you can add into your sleep routine that might help you with getting a better and restful sleep. So somebody mentioned a happy IKEA day. Last night I got 4 hours of sleep and I felt so dizzy today. Yes, definitely. If you don't get sleep, you might have a headache. You might feel, like I mentioned, hungry. So we tend to get cravings. And if we don't have a good sleep, then we might want to crave more food. We might get more hungry because we're just trying to give our body more energy and more fuel. So that tends to be a thing that we can overeat if we don't sleep. Like this person mentioned, they felt dizzy. So dizzy, headaches, difficulty concentrating, those are some common symptoms if you don't get a good sleep. I had a coffee at 6 p.m. Not a good idea. Yes, I definitely, if I have coffee too late or like even in the afternoon, I can, have a difficulty sleeping. So I will go into a little bit about caffeine. But I want to hear from you. What do you think the average amount of time you get for sleep? Like, what is your average amount of time that you get every night for sleep? And is that, good enough for you, or do you think you need something more? So ideally, on average, adults should get about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So that in that range from 7 to 9, that's why they say you should get around 8 hours of sleep a night. That is usually what is enough for us just to feel good and function and be able to go on with our day-to-day tasks and not feel tired or burnt out. So typically around 7 to 8 hours. So I know for me, I have to have 8 hours. If I do not, then I don't feel well. So someone mentioned 8 hours, another person said 6 hours. Yeah, so the 6 hours would be just a little bit under the recommended ideal amount. But of course, it can vary from person to person. Maybe at that 6 hours, maybe you're okay. Maybe you are able to thrive and feel well. But some people might need 10 hours. Some people might need a little bit more, a little bit less. So somebody mentioned they have difficulty falling back asleep after waking up in the middle of the night. Yep, that can be a challenge too. So we'll go into some more tips about that and how that can help you. For 4.2 hours, that's not much at all. So yeah, definitely getting in some more sleep would probably be more beneficial. Waking up a lot. Okay, so I think people are saying they're waking up a lot. I get it 6, but it's always interrupted. Okay, so definitely sounds like a lot of you are experiencing some sleep difficulty. So hopefully everything we chat about today can help you feel a little bit better. So like I mentioned, we should get around 7 to 9 hours. That would help us feel a bit more productive, prevent headaches, prevent dizziness, and prevent just that feeling of fatigue and not feeling well rested in the morning. So here are some typical sleep hygiene tips that we like to recommend that can just help get a better routine and into a better sleep. So number one would be have a sleep cycle. So this means you should go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every morning. I cannot stress this enough. This is really the most important thing. Otherwise, you're just throwing off your circadian rhythm or your internal clock. And if you're going to bed really late one night, and then you're never going to be able to fall asleep at the same time on the other nights. So it's more important to try to go to bed at the same time every night and then wake up at the same time every morning. Even on the weekends, you can try to do that, but we like to sleep in a little bit, so that is okay. But it really shouldn't be super drastic. So you shouldn't be staying in bed till maybe noon, and then during the week you're waking up at 8, because then you will have that difficulty of trying to get up in the morning around 8. So that's number one. So making sure you're having a sleep schedule. So sticking to going to bed at the same time every night and then waking up at the same time every morning. Some tips of trying to do that would, if you're currently going to bed, let's say at 1 in the morning, and your ideal time would be 11, then you want to slowly bring your time back towards 11 p.m. So if you try to go to bed at 11 p.m., you probably wouldn't be able to. So maybe you try going to bed at 12:30 and then 12, and slowly make your way back. So that's kind of a tip in order to start going to bed at an earlier bedtime. Number 2 would be, do not do anything other than sleep in your room. So don't do your work, don't go on the TV, don't exercise in your room. So it really should strictly just be for sleeping. And this is just telling your body that when you go into your bedroom and when you go into bed, it's time to go to sleep. So that's just kind of training your mind into that. So really just trying to keep other activities outside of your room. Number 3 would be making sure that your room is cool. So our bodies actually do better sleeping in a cool room. So during the summer, having the air conditioning or a fan on or a window open to keep your room a little bit cooler is actually a little bit better. You'll feel a bit more relaxed. Your body temperature can regulate a bit better. So trying to have a cooler room, a little bit of a breeze, would be something you can try to do. You might not know it, but maybe your room is too hot and then you're not able to fall asleep, or maybe you're waking up in the middle of the night because your body's temperature is not regulated. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Would be similar to making sure your room is cool. You want to make sure the room is dark. So it has to be pretty dark in your room. So making sure you're having good blinds, no lights coming in from outside of your room. That would be able to work on that melatonin production. So we'll talk about melatonin in a bit, but if you have the light, it will affect your melatonin production. So you want to make sure it's dark. You can use lamps. So if you're in your bedroom at night, you can use lamps or something like that instead of having that really bright light. Okay, next tip would be to not have a big meal at least 2 hours prior to going to bed, or a lot of drinks. So sometimes if you're waking up in the middle of the night, maybe it's because you had something to drink and then you have to go to the washroom. Or if you had a big meal, you're not going to be able to relax and go to sleep because your body is going to be worrying about digesting that food, or you might get a stomach ache if you just ate a big meal and then you went and lie down. So making sure you're giving yourself at least 2 hours. I'll go into this a little bit more in a bit about how sometimes you actually want to make sure you're having a good meal, but not too close to bed. So we'll chat about that in a bit. Another thing would be to do not use electronics at least 1 hour prior to bed. So this one is really important. So not using your computer, your phone, your TV, any sort of electronic, because the blue light from them can interfere with your melatonin production, and we need melatonin in order to get a good restful sleep. So making sure that you have something else, some other activity, whether you want to read a book, listen to music, just try not to use your screen, you can just listen to it, If you want to color or anything, any other activity that you want to do that's more relaxing instead of going on your electronics. So this one tends to be a big culprit for a lot of people, because we just go on our phones before we go to bed or we watch TV. And it really does interfere with your production of melatonin, so you might not get that nice restful sleep, or you might not be able to fall asleep. So trying to limit it around 1 hour, at least half an hour, but if you can do 1 hour, that would be the best in order to get a nice restful sleep. Okay, number 7 would be avoid daytime naps. So similar to what I talked about before, about how you want to make sure you're going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time every morning, you want to make sure you're not having naps during the day, because this can actually interfere with that restfulness that you need in order to go to bed at night. So maybe if you have a nap during the day, then you're not tired enough to go to bed at night. So unless it's absolutely necessary, try to avoid naps, because that can really break up that sleep routine that you're trying to create. Okay, and then the last tip would be actually to get out of bed if you cannot fall asleep. So if you're just tossing and turning in bed and you have a restless mind and you're not able to fall asleep, it's actually better to get out of bed and maybe just like sit on the edge of the bed or sit on a chair in your room and just wait a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, and then go back in bed and try to fall asleep. Because what happens is we tend to just get a little bit more restless the more that we can't fall asleep. We keep thinking about, oh, I'm not going to fall asleep and I got to wake up at 6 to go to work, or whatever, I got to do this tomorrow, whatever it may be. So making sure that you're actually just getting out of bed, resetting your mind, and then going back into bed, and then you can try to fall asleep. Okay, so I'm going to quickly recap those 8 tips. If you have any questions about any of those, let me know in the comments. So number 1 was make a sleep schedule. So go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every morning. Number 2 was don't do anything other than sleep in your room. So don't watch TV, do not do your work, do not exercise in your room. Number 3 is making sure that the room is nice and cool, so the temperature. Number 4 is making sure that the room is dark. Number 5 was not eating a big meal 2 hours prior to going to bed, or not having a lot of water 2 hours before going to bed. Number 6 was do not use your electronics 1 hour prior to going to sleep. Number 7 is avoiding daytime naps. And then number 8 was, like I mentioned, getting out of bed if you cannot fall asleep, and then trying to go back to sleep. Okay, so let's see. So someone mentioned, is it better to wake up earlier than later? So yes, actually, so you want to try to make your sleep around the way like the sun is. So if, the sun, it does rise early, so not saying you have to get up right when the sun rises, but it's better to get up during light time and then go to bed when it is like as soon as it gets dark. Obviously it changes depending on the time of the year. So it is better to get up a bit earlier, because your body will be able to adjust. So I'll talk a bit about melatonin and cortisol production, because that kind of ties in with your question. So our cortisol actually spikes just before 8 a.m. So it's what gets us out of bed. So if you're waking up a little bit later, then you're not going to get that spike, and you're not going to be able to have that energy to get out of bed. And then your melatonin curve, which your melatonin should actually be lower in the morning, and then it should spike in the evening. You're going to have a dysregulation of your cortisol and your melatonin. So getting up early, going to bed at a decent time too, that would be better for maintaining that proper melatonin and cortisol curve. So now that I'm kind of talking a little bit about melatonin, I'll kind of go into about how this can actually be used as a supplement to take if you need to help reset your circadian rhythm, or if you need a little bit of a boost to go to sleep. It's not always the first thing that I like to jump to because it is pretty strong, and it is something that our body already naturally creates. So it's better to follow like those sleep hygiene techniques that I mentioned. But if you need a little bit of an extra help, then melatonin is something that can help you fall asleep. So, like I mentioned, melatonin is produced when throughout the day it gets produced, and then it builds up, and then at the evening was when it spikes, and that's when it would help you feel restful and help you get a restful sleep. If you're watching TV, or if you're on a lot of electronics, that can interfere with its production, and you might not get that nice spike in melatonin, and then you're not able to fall asleep. So if you were to take melatonin about half an hour to an hour before going to bed, and that can help get your body into that restful sleep. So it kind of gives you that bit of a boost that you would normally have, but maybe your production of melatonin's interfered. Maybe you're not feeling as restful as you may need to. So having a little bit of that can help improve your sleep. However, you want to be careful because it can make you feel a little bit groggy. So having too much melatonin, and this is something that I commonly see, people say that they're taking about 10 milligrams of melatonin, and that actually is a lot. You might only want to take 1 or 2 milligrams, and always start lower, because 10 is just, it's too much, and you don't need that much. It would actually make you feel groggy the next morning. You might not get a nice boost in energy the next day because you have too much left in your system. And you definitely don't want to be taking it like in the middle of the night, because like I mentioned before, you're already having that spike before. So if you're taking it at 1 or 2 in the morning, then it's gonna like go over into the morning time, and then you're gonna feel like groggy and tired. So making sure that you're actually, whenever you are dosing something or whenever you're using a supplement, just know that it's important to know how much you should take and when to take it. So melatonin should be taken at least 30 minutes to an hour before going to bed, and you always want to start with the lower dose. So that's a little bit about melatonin. I'm not sure if any of you have tried it, but let me know in the comments if that's something that you tried, if it worked for you. There's actually a lot of research on it for people that are shift workers, or also if you're, if you're flying and then you're changing time zones, it can be helpful for those kind of things. So those small, changes in schedule, it can be helpful for, but it's not something that you want to take long term. You really shouldn't. You don't want your body to have to rely on the external source of melatonin. You should just use it acutely if you need to for additional help in sleep. Okay. So, so let me know if there's any questions about anything else before we move on. And then I'm going to talk about some other things that can interfere with sleep that maybe you didn't really think about, you don't know about too much, or maybe they are things that you realize that do interfere with your sleep. I'll go into that in a little bit, but if you haven't done so already, if you're not a member of this channel, you can subscribe and join us every Friday. We chat about different health topics here every week, and we have a live Q&A, so hit that subscribe button, and then you can give this video a like. It really helps to get the channel noticed across YouTube. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, so we can get more people coming back here and answering our questions every week and participating in the chat. Let's see what we have. What about Big Macs? Is that bad for sleep? Yeah, I would say that something like that, like a really heavy meal, you probably wouldn't feel too good about having that, for dinner or even late at night. That is going to be like your body has to work a lot to digest that food. So like I mentioned, at least leaving yourself a couple hours before, and then something like a Big Mac is pretty heavy, like it's got probably a lot of salt in it, a lot of extra fat and processed stuff. So it's a lot on your body to digest something like that. So you might not feel too good after eating something like that. So making sure that you're avoiding that, too close to bedtime. Okay, let's talk about some other things that may be interfering with your sleep. So now that we're talking a little bit about diet, let's talk a bit about that. So I mentioned that you might be eating too late and that might interfere with your sleep. But on the other hand, you actually might not be eating enough, or maybe you're not eating close enough, like to an ideal bedtime. So maybe you're having a meal at 4 and then you're not eating anything after that, or even if you're eating at 6 and then your blood sugar tends to dip. So depending on when you're going to sleep, so if you're having your last meal at 6 but then you're not going to bed till midnight, you might actually have a dip in your blood sugar, and that might interfere with you either falling asleep or you might be waking up throughout the night. So we need to make sure that our blood sugar is stable and that we have a meal that has like a good amount of protein and fats and carbohydrates, so that we're able to stay satiated overnight. Because if not, then you might get that dip of blood sugar and then you might be waking up, or you might be feeling a little restless or anxious, and it might be due to the fact that you didn't eat enough. Maybe your dinner wasn't big enough, or maybe you ate it too early. So you kind of have to figure out what is that happy medium for you. So making sure you're not eating too late, but also making sure that you are eating something. So maybe having a smaller snack is a better idea rather than having something really big late at night. So that way you can have a small protein snack, and that can help keep you full throughout the night. That could be something that maybe you didn't know about, or you didn't really think about it, but blood sugar needs to be stable throughout the night in order for us to have a good sleep. Okay, what else? So there's something called sleep apnea, and this is a condition where you stop breathing abruptly, and then you kind of like you can either snore, or you choke on your breath a little bit, and then you wake up. So, but you might not even notice that you're doing it. It actually might be your partner that notices it. Maybe they're saying that you're snoring a lot, or you sound like you stop breathing a little bit throughout the night. This is something that can interfere with your sleep, and then you would wake up in the morning and you wouldn't feel like you rested at all. So something like that, you would want to make sure you're going and getting that checked. You can do a sleep study, and they'll just make sure that you're sleeping properly. So sleep apnea is a pretty common issue, so it can happen to a lot of people. You might not notice it. So just monitoring how tired are you in the morning. If you're feeling like you really didn't sleep at all, then that's something that you might want to look into. And if it's happening every night, then definitely it could be pointing towards sleep apnea. Okay, another one, we were kind of talking about coffee. So caffeine is a huge caffeine intake or coffee intake. This is a huge impact on sleep. So a lot of people think that they can have a coffee in the morning, or maybe one in the afternoon, and they can have a good sleep. And maybe you can, because maybe your body has built up a tolerance to it. But actually, it takes our body and our liver and our body some time to detox the caffeine. So you want to make sure that you're not having a coffee 12 hours before you're going to bed. And I know that sounds like a lot. So if you're going to bed at 11, then you shouldn't have a coffee after 11. You really shouldn't be having one in the afternoon. You might get that temporary boost in your energy, but it's actually going to cause you more harm than good, because you won't be able to either fall asleep, or it can interfere with a restful sleep throughout the night, because the caffeine does still stay in our systems for that amount of time. So making sure that you're maybe having one in the morning and then not having one in the afternoon, or not having one in the evening. Or if you do have one, go for decaf. Choose something that's decaf. And this kind of goes along with teas too, because teas can have caffeine in them. So making sure that if you are very sensitive to coffee or teas or caffeine, making sure that you're picking one that's decaf is also helpful. Okay. So we talked a bit about blood sugar, sleep apnea, caffeine. Let's talk a bit about anxiety and stress. So these are pretty common things that can happen from day to day. We might experience anxiety or stress about different things that go on, but they can have a big impact on our sleep, because when we go to bed at night, we're kind of relaxing, and then that's when our minds start racing. We start thinking about different things. So what can you do to help with this? Well, I'm going to talk about some herbs in a bit, but there's other ways of helping with anxiety and stress, and this can be things like journaling or writing things down, so that way whatever you have to do the next day, it's not on your mind at night. So either keeping a little book beside you or a little journal beside you at bed, and then if you're noticing, okay, I'm thinking about my to-do list tomorrow, or I'm stressing about what I have to do or what I have to buy, so writing that down right away so you're getting it off of your mind is a great way of making sure that you can have it off your mind, and then you can go to sleep and not have to worry about, okay, tomorrow I have to remember to do this, because if you wrote it down, then it's already going to be there. Okay. And then last week I chatted a little bit about cortisol imbalance and what you can do for that, and that kind of adrenal fatigue. So you can go and check out that video from last week if you think that's something that you're experiencing. So if you're having like that tired but wired feeling, or if you're feeling restless or anxious, check out that. And I mentioned what you can do to help balance your cortisol. And then another condition that can interfere with sleep that we might not think about is restless legs. Restless leg syndrome, it's called. So this is where you're noticing if you're tapping your leg a lot, or if you're shaking your leg and feeling restless. It can actually interfere with your sleep at night, because you might notice that you're doing that at night, or you might just feel a little more anxious and restless. So something like magnesium is great for this. If you're noticing that, even if you have muscle tension or muscle stiffness, muscle aches and pains that are interfering with your sleep, having something like magnesium is a nice calming mineral. It's great for our bones and our muscles and overall our nervous system. So you want to aim for something like a bisglycinate. That one is more good for calming you down in your muscles, whereas other ones are good for different things. So there's so many different forms. So looking for something like that can help have you relax and have a nice restful sleep. So you can take that about an hour before going to bed, and just one capsule of that a day can help you feel a little bit calmer. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about any of the things that I just chatted about the blood sugar, the sleep apnea, caffeine? Do you have any questions about caffeine or tea? Any anxiety or stress questions, or restless legs, or I just mentioned magnesium. So any questions about that, let me know. Okay, so what are some food or drinks other than coffee, tea that have a lot of caffeine? So chocolate can have caffeine in it. So you want to make sure that you're noticing if that's something that you like to snack on. Chocolate has caffeine in it. Then there's like the energy drinks, like Red Bull or Monster drinks, or even like pre-workout drinks. So if you work out close, like in the evening, and you have a pre-workout drink, that will give you a boost, but then it can interfere with your sleep. So those would be some things like chocolate, the pre-workout drinks, other things like anything like that has, you want to like read the ingredients. So anything that's like packaged, like I said, maybe more of like the sports like bars or things like that, they might have additional things in that. Okay, so that would be things with caffeine. What was the name of the magnesium supplement? So the form of the magnesium is called bisglycinate or magnesium glycinate. That's the one that is the more calming one. There's magnesium citrate. That one can actually cause a little bit of loose stools, whereas the bisglycinate doesn't. there's different, yeah, like there's magnesium taurate, but the one that is good for like helping you calm down and helping with muscle aches and pains is magnesium bisglycinate. Does green tea have caffeine? Yes, green tea does have caffeine in it. However, okay, this is a good time to kind of talk about this, is green tea also has a component in it, and it's one of its substances is called L-theanine. So it has the caffeine, which can help, stimulate alertness and like we were talking about before. But the L-theanine part of it is actually calming. So it really helps to give you that kind of zened out feeling that that they talk about when you're like in yoga or meditating, that feeling of zen, or just helping relax your body, like the mental restlessness. So sometimes if you do have the green tea, because it has the L-theanine, you might actually feel a little bit relaxed. So that one depends on how your body can handle it. I wouldn't suggest matcha. That one is actually much more stronger and has more caffeine. But just a regular green tea leaves, you might be able to have something like that. It might help you feel relaxed. But if you're very sensitive to caffeine, then you probably would want to stay away. Maybe do a decaf one. So L-theanine can actually be taken in a capsule form as well. So that is something that you might want to look into. It can help even like during the day if you want to feel a little bit alert, but you don't want to have that like jitteriness or anxiety that you might get from a coffee. Having capsule or a supplement of L-theanine can help you get that mental alertness, but that relaxation part. So that is actually a good one to try out too, and you can have that in the evening, and it won't make you stay awake. Okay, does sugar have the same effect as caffeine? It can. It can have that like burst of energy that you would get from caffeine, or too much sugar. It can spike your blood sugar basically and can give you that false energy boost, but then you're going to get that crash because it's just going to then go out of your bloodstream and your body has to work to metabolize it. So in the end, you're going to get too much of a crash. So yeah, in terms of like the way it works in the body, like on the receptors, it's not the same, but sugar can be very addictive, and you'll want to like keep having more and more of it. That's why it's in so many products, because they want you to have more of them. So it can definitely have that same addictive effect as caffeine in that sense too. Okay, how do you spell that? I will write it down for you. L-theanine. That's L-theanine. Okay. All right, let's go into some of the herbs that I was mentioning before that I would talk about. So there's many different types of herbs in botanical medicine, and some of them are what we call sedatives. So those are ones that help you calm down and sleep. There's ones that we call anxiolytics. So those ones are helpful for anxiety and calming down any nervousness and anxiety. And then there's ones that are nervines, and these are good for just like helping modulate the nervous system. So I will talk about a few of them, but let me know if you've ever tried any different herbs to help with sleep, or herbal teas or anything, and how that worked for you. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is called valerian. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but it's valerian root. This one is good to use more long term. It can help with having initiating a restful sleep, so helping you feel a little sleepy, because it is a sedative, and it can help with that like overstimulated state. If you're feeling really overstimulated and really anxious, this one is good for helping create a restful sleep. It works on like our serotonin and GABA receptors, which are helpful for having a calming state. So that one is valerian. Another one is called passion flower, and this one is good for anxiety and nervousness and that like stress induced restlessness. So if you are really stressed out and you're not able to fall asleep, having some passion flower is a good way of helping with that. So all of these that I'm going to be talking about, you can either have them in a tea form, you can have them in a capsule form, so that's like in a pill form that you would buy in the bottles, or you can have them in a tincture form. And tinctures are basically herbal extracts in a little bit of alcohol with water, and then it's like in a liquid form. So any of those forms that you can have any of these herbs, and some of them come blended together already in different pills, capsules, or if they come in the tinctures or even teas, you can find different herbal tea blends that are good for sleep. Okay, so valerian, passion flower, and then hops. So hops is actually, you may have heard of it in like, it's in beer. And it can give you that like sleepy effect. So hops is really good for helping you just feel sleepy, helping your body just get into that sleep routine and helping you just relax a little bit. It can also be helpful for headaches and other muscle aches and menstrual pain too. So hops is a good one for if you just want something to help you feel a little sleepy. Then there's lavender. So this one's pretty popular, and I'm sure a lot of you heard about lavender or you've seen the nice lavender fields. But lavender is really good for just helping calm you down and helping with, again, with restlessness and anxiety. But you can even, this one is nice because the aroma, like the aromatherapy of lavender smells really nice. So you can put lavender in a diffuser, and you can even spray it around or spray it on your pillow, and that will help you kind of just feel a little bit more relaxed, and it kind of gets you into that like okay, I'm smelling this and then now I'm ready to go to bed. So lavender is a really nice one because it has a nice smell. And then there's chamomile. So this one's also another popular one as a tea. It can be helpful for just feeling helping you feel a little relaxed, but it's also good if you're having difficulty digesting something or you have an upset tummy. Having some chamomile can do that like dual action of helping out with falling asleep, and then if you have an upset tummy too. Okay, so let me know, do you have any questions about any of those herbs? If questions about how to take them, or any other ones that you wanted to know about, any more questions about any of those herbs, just let me know. So I'll just recap the ones I talked about. Was valerian, passion flower, hops, lavender, and then chamomile. So like I mentioned, there are ready-made tea blends that you can get, like sleepy time teas. They have many different names, and you can take that about, I would say, like, again, like I mentioned, you don't want to have too much water or too much liquids before going to bed. So if you notice that you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the washroom, or you can't fall asleep because you have to urinate, then you might not want to have the tea. Maybe you want to have like the tincture form or the capsule form instead. However, having a nice cup of calming tea, just that like ritual of drinking the tea, is a little bit, relaxing in itself. So if you are going to have the tea, try to limit it to a small cup and like having it an hour, at least an hour before going to bed. And you can steep it a little bit longer, so that way it gets strong and you can have it in a small amount of water. Okay, so where can you buy them? So things like the teas you can buy at grocery stores, should have them. In terms of the capsules and the tinctures, any health food store should be able to carry them. So just go to a local health food store in your area, or even online. There's different health food distributors. You should be able to find them. So you can just like type in the herb, so valerian tea or valerian capsules or lavender tea or lavender tincture, anything like that. Okay, is alcohol bad before bed? So, alcohol, like, it can make us a little sleepy, but it actually does interfere with the sleep cycle. So, good question. So, I would say trying to avoid alcohol, depending on how much you are having. If you're having like a glass of wine with dinner or half a glass, should be okay. But lots of alcohol or large amounts of alcohol before bed can definitely interfere with your sleep cycle and just having a restful sleep. So you might be sleepy, but you're probably not getting into a deep sleep, like a nice deep sleep. So, yes, alcohol before bed, I would say to probably avoid it if you're having sleep issues. You mentioned hot, so is a beer before sleep okay, or does it mess the digestive system? Yeah, so like I was just saying again, it can make you feel sleepy, but it can actually interfere with your sleep cycle and having a restful sleep. And yeah, also messing up with the digestive system. So you might, feel a little bit gassy or bloated from having the beer or whatever other alcohol it is. So it probably would not feel so good to have that just before going to bed. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a couple more things and then we'll wrap it up for today. So, like I mentioned before, we talked about, I was talking about like journaling and things like that. So, let's talk about some lifestyle tips that you can implement that can help you feel relaxed. So, exercise is great because it can help you burn some energy and then help you have a, feel relaxed in the evening. But you want to be careful that you're not doing a high intensity workout too close to bedtime. So if you have to work out in the evening, that's fine. But limit it to like a couple hours, at least 3 hours before going to bed, because you might feel them too stimulated. But it's great because it can help you burn some calories and help get your mind, a little bit off of stress or things that you're doing, and then you can feel a little bit relaxed because you did have that vigorous or intense workout, but making sure that you're not having it too close before going to bed. And then on the topic of that, having something like yoga or meditation prior to bed, so having that close to your bedtime. So in that time that I mentioned that you should be avoiding electronics, doing something like this. So something like yoga, again, you want to make sure that it's relaxing. So you can Google yin yoga. Yin yoga is great because it's that more of a relaxing yoga. You hold the yoga poses for a couple of minutes as opposed to going through a flow that might get your heart rate up or get you sweaty. So yin yoga is a great way of tuning into that and like tapping into that parasympathetic nervous system and helping you feel more relaxed. So that's a great one to do. And then, like I mentioned, meditation. It might be challenging to start this at first, but even if you just sit with your eyes closed and listen to a guided meditation, that can help you just, again, tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, help you focus on taking deep breaths, which can just, bring your heart rate down and help relax you and prepare you to go to sleep. So doing these kind of things, like you can do them just half an hour before going to bed. Have yourself a nice little like nighttime routine, whether that be drinking a nice cup of tea or listening to a guided meditation or doing some yin yoga. These things are great in getting your body ready to go to sleep. Okay. So let me know if you have any other questions, and I'm going to just recap about everything that we talked about today. Okay, so we first were talking about how much sleep should we get. So we should get, adults should get about 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And why is this important? It's because it's going to help you feel relaxed and rested. And as we all know, when we don't have a good sleep, then we probably don't feel good. So if you don't have a good sleep, you can get things like headaches, you can feel fatigue, some brain fog, dizzy, cravings like I was mentioning. So making sure that you're having a good sleep is so important for all those things. We talked about sleep hygiene, so how you should have a sleep schedule, how you should make sure that your bedroom is just for sleeping and not watching TV or doing work. You want the room to be nice and dark and cool, and then like limiting your electronics and your food intake before bed, and then making sure that you're getting out of bed. If you cannot fall asleep, get out of bed, stay seated on the bed or in a chair for a few minutes, and then try going back to sleep. We chatted about how things can interfere with your sleep. So things like blood sugar, things like sleep apnea, caffeine intake, anxiety and stress, and restless legs or muscle tension. So how all those things can interfere with your sleep, and how you might want to look into that to see if that's what's causing your issues. We talked about some herbs, so valerian, passion flower, lavender, chamomile, and hops, and how those are all really good in calming you down, helping you feel relaxed, helping with any anxiety or restlessness or nervous tension, and looking into taking one of those, whether it be in a tea form, in a tincture, or capsules. And then like melatonin, L-theanine, those are other two products that we talked about, that supplements that you can take. And then having a good nighttime routine is really like a foundation for having good sleep. So making sure you're either doing some sort of relaxing activities or some way to wind down. Maybe you're getting your to-do list ready for the next day, so that way you can kind of just relax for the whole day. Okay, so we talked about quite a bit, so let me know if you have any questions, and if not, we will wrap up for today. I'm just going to see if there's anything that I missed. I don't think so. All right. Okay, I think that is it. So, yeah, somebody mentioned like a journal is a good idea. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to journal out your thoughts. It can just be like I mentioned, and in thoughts I meant like you don't have to journal out, go deep into your feelings and write about, what's on your mind. But it can be a way of just writing down, like I said, your to-do list or what you have to do tomorrow, so you take that off your mind. Having a TV in the bedroom and falling asleep watching TV, is that bad? Yeah, so like a TV can help you fall asleep because maybe it's, relaxing and putting you to sleep, but like I said, it can interfere with that melatonin production. So maybe you are falling asleep, but maybe you're not staying asleep because maybe you didn't get that nice buildup of melatonin, so you couldn't get that spike, and maybe it's causing difficulty with staying asleep. So probably not, like, avoiding having a TV in the bedroom. It would be better to go watch TV and then finish watching TV and then give yourself an hour to do some sort of relaxing or winding down routine instead of watching it in the bedroom. Yeah, so to-do list. Okay. Reading helps me to sleep, not on the phone though. Actual books or an ebook reader. Yeah, so reading is good for helping calm you down. And ebook readers don't have that blue light, so that's fine, or actual books. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining me this week and chatting with me all about sleep. Next week, I'm going to be chatting about what we call, or what, this fad word called superfoods. So I'm going to be chatting about different types of superfoods and, are they really worth the hype, or are they good? What's so good about them? So I'll go into details about all those different foods. So if you have any, foods that you're interested in knowing about, you can bring your questions next week and let me know, and I will try my best to answer them. Okay. So, that's all for today. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye.